Greetings and welcome to A Nobody Interviews Somebodies. This is the podcast committed to unveiling the untold stories of remarkable individuals. I'm Jerry Klingerman, your guide through the maze of extraordinary lives and experiences. Whether you're curious about the journey of influential figures, seeking inspiration from their successes, or simply intrigued by the human behind the headlines, this podcast is your guide. So tune in as we celebrate the stories that remind us everyone's journey is a story worth hearing. So let's answer the question, what's your why? That is, who am I and why did I start this podcast? Honestly, I'm a dreamer. But if there's one thing I've learned in my life is that dreams are actionable. I've always been an outside the box thinker and I've been a hands-on entrepreneur for 20 plus years. I've achieved some really cool things in my life. And I will admit that I've also had some rather spectacular failures. Anybody who's an entrepreneur will tell you that that's just par for the course. I've actually had the idea for this podcast for a long time, but it wasn't until very recently that I decided to actually do it, to move forward. One of my inspirations, probably the biggest inspiration, as I said in the first episode, was a short-lived interview show that William Shatner did. Honestly, it was the best interview style show I've ever seen, and I don't know why he stopped doing it. He had a way of getting his guests, they were all A-list people, to open up in ways that I had never seen before. I really, truly loved talking with people, and I thought the format was perfect. It was probably that show that got me thinking, I'd like to do that. I'd like to talk with famous, accomplished, or notable people and get them to go off script, if you will. I'm Jerry Klingerman, and for a long time now, I have referred to myself as a quote unquote career communicator. I also joke that someday I'm going to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I have a degree in journalism and I've worked in advertising as a magazine editor for a $200 million annual company, communications and marketing director, and then as a self-employed writer, publisher, and photographer. I did my time in the corporate world, and truth be told, I had the golden ticket. If I had stayed in the corporate world, I could be comfortably retired by now. But I think I also would have been absolutely miserable. Entrepreneurs are the square pegs in a world of round holes. People might not understand us, and then again, some people might envy us. But until and unless you've left a comfortable job with a good salary and benefits for the uncertainty rather of self-employment, you'll never know everything that's involved. So I really, in the end, I just couldn't do the corporate thing forever. I would sit in my office and wonder what's out there. So I took my first entrepreneurial leap in 1994. And to be very honest, it didn't work out. But I learned a lot about myself and who I am. So in that respect, it was worth it. At this point in my life, with 40 years of experience and being a communicator and observer, I think I have a unique perspective, not only from which to see the world, but also to share with the world. As I've mentioned before, I think it was Shatner's show that got me headed down this path, or at least started thinking about it. He was so genuine. I'd never seen anything like it. No audience, no house band, just two people sitting facing each other and chatting on an in-depth level. There are lots of things like that which have affected me, but honestly, I think that's where the seed was planted. When I originally left the corporate world for good in 2004, my goal was to become a speaker and presenter. I quickly got taken down a completely different path, but I'm also working hard to circle back to that original goal. I have a message to share, and I want to hear other people's messages as well. Hey guys, real quick, just wanted to pop in here and let you know that a Nobody Interviews Somebody's recently started an exclusive newsletter just for you listeners. You'll get behind the scenes stories and additional content from the remarkable stories shared here. If you'd like to be kept in the loop, the link will be in the description below the episode. Now let's get back to it. This is something that's been simmering on one of the back burners in my brain for a very long time. To be completely transparent, I've been imagining interviewing one specific A-list actor for a very long time. And if you know anything about entrepreneurs, it's that we very rarely have one project that we're pursuing or working on. that most definitely can lead to problems. But that creative spark also is a huge part of what makes us who we are. The world needs dreamers and people who are willing to not only look at the world differently, but also to try different things. But to get specific, I've got to give a huge shout out to Josh 40. Josh is a young, outspoken, brash, and to the point person. He's an entrepreneur. I've taken several master classes with him. I've met him. I know him. But the most recent program that I took from him was one that was centered around podcasting and coaching. Without going into too much detail, Josh is the one who got me thinking, you know what? I'm going to try this. For the last 15 or so years, my specialty has morphed into creating and launching magazines. I've self-published 2 books, and I've got 2 more in progress right now. Like a lot of writers who also are entrepreneurs, I have lots of projects in various stages of development. But day to day, I pay the bills with a trade magazine that I created 11 years ago. I do the whole thing: writing, editing, layout, design, sales, everything. I have one remote assistant, and also I'm very proud to say that my oldest daughter also helps out. I started the Nobody Interviews Somebody's podcast because someone, Josh 40, made me realize that it was not an outlandish dream at all, but something that could easily be obtained with the right amount of work. At a certain point, I realized this could be a great vehicle, not just to meet amazing people, but also to realize a long-held dream slash aspiration. Is this the last thing I'll do in my career? Absolutely not. I really can't say where this will lead or even where I want it to go. What I can say is I hope to have value-added conversations with whoever we're talking with, and by doing that, give our listeners insights and information that makes an impact on them. Whether it's just enjoying learning more about someone's backstory, kind of filling in the blanks, or something more actionable. Anytime people can share information in an open, honest, and non-judgmental forum, I think that's a good thing. I also know, as a journalist and a student of how the media works, that the stories you see and hear in mass media outlets very often are not the whole story or are not accurate. That's the beauty of this format. There's no gatekeeper controlling the flow of information. There isn't going to be anyone saying, oh, you can't talk about that or you shouldn't say that. And that, in the nutshell, is the real beauty of the digital slash information age. It's given so many people a platform for the message. Is it always pretty? No. People often complain about this, but I think it's a beautiful thing. Look, we're still in the wild, wild west stages of the internet in a lot of ways. Not to get political, but governments everywhere would love to find ways to limit and control the flow of information. And until and unless they find a way, or miraculously more ways to limit that, let's keep talking. I'm excited to meet new people and get to know them and to get their real, complete story out to the world. Whether we're correcting the record, adding unknown context or a backstory, I think it's great to be able to get as much information out as possible. We're going to start down this path and see where it leads. Along the way, I'm going to have as much fun as possible, and I'm hopeful to develop an audience that appreciates what I'm trying to do. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Nobody Interviews Somebody's. I want to express my gratitude to all the listeners for tuning in. Your support truly means the world to me. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future topics, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me on social media or by email. The address is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Jerry Klingerman, reminding you to keep embracing the beauty of every story, including yours.